welcome to ShakeTube episode 10. Not only are we getting into double digits this week, episode-wise, we are also getting into greatest hits territory with the play we're looking at this week, Hamlet. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, and reading these lines brought me back to my high school English classroom where each person with varying degrees of enthusiasm ripped through this famous monologue from memory for points. I remember the effect each repeated iteration had on me at the time as my will to live dropped as fast as King Claudius did when he drank his own poison. It's not too soon, because he deserved it. I do recall that this play had a more positive effect on me at the time as opposed to a lot of other Shakespeare's works that we were reading at this point in time. And this was a period where I wasn't really caught up in a lot of the hype that Shakespeare scholars like to project onto other people. I know now that I'm reading a lot of different scholars' works now, a lot of them say that Hamlet is Shakespeare's greatest play, but for me, I didn't really know that, and I didn't know that the famous monologue was included in this play. I just knew that it was of Shakespeare, and that was about it. I just know I had a direct comparison 2 weeks later to Macbeth, which I felt less than strongly about, and a reading experience that was made all the weirder by the fact that our teacher showed us the Playboy-produced film adaptation, which was incredibly awkward to watch in a classroom full of adolescent kids. Now, a huge association I have with that play is Naked Witches, but regardless, I'm looking forward to going back and giving Macbeth its redemption round in a few weeks because I know we're reading that a little bit later down the line in ShakeTube. I just know that out of most of the plays we read throughout my primary schooling, this one really stood out on its own through its own surface level story. It seemed to flow and presented a lot of plot twists that kept me engaged. It was in all the right places as well to keep it interesting throughout each of the acts. Like you had Hamlet's accidental murder of Polonius, or you learned that Claudius truly did murder Hamlet's father, and all of those things were just spaced out so well that I really did want to find out what was going to happen next. And I liked that I recognized pieces of the play from other sources. There were a lot of cartoons at the time that liked to use that to be or not to be trope. And so I knew about it, and it was really nice to put some context to that particular phrase and see where it leads to, because that speech is way more than its most famous first few lines. It also ends in a bloodbath in the last act, which was surprising at the time and also very satisfying for an angsty teenager. But like I said, the enjoyment I had with Hamlet was very surface level at the time, so it was really great getting to revisit this classic with a bit more experience and maturity under my belt. One thing that really stood out to me this time around was the fact that this play looks at mortality in a really realistic way. In other plays, you have characters that kill other characters, and that's just kind of the way it is. You have people that have the stereotypical sad reactions, but in this you have characters like Ophelia that go mad after a loved one is killed. You have Gertrude who's looking for a rebound after her husband is killed. You even have Hamlet who can't bring himself to commit the deed because he starts to ponder the consequences of that murder, not only in the present life, but in the afterlife as well. And I thought it was so cool that it explored death in so many ways, that it wasn't just something that was a cookie cutter, it was something that was really fluid for each character. And I think that reading it now, I picked up on that more than I would have when I read it in high school. This time around, I also looked at the motivations behind the actions in certain scenes, like we had the subtlety of Hamlet not striking against Claudius when he was down on his knees to pray because he could see him in that instance. But then you have Polonius, and a lot of people would say that's kind of inconsistent, but Polonius was behind a curtain and Hamlet couldn't really put a face to that deed. And so I thought that the subtle difference between the two was really fascinating because you're exploring something that is so life-changing. Nobody just goes out and thinks, I'm going to murder someone today. It's kind of a big deal when you make that choice, even if it is for revenge. And so I thought that the difference there was really fascinating, and I appreciated that Shakespeare wrote that in. And outside of a torturous echo chamber, the to be or not to be speech is incredibly powerful and deep, especially considering that this is a play that was performed to such a wide range of people and to such a wide range of social classes, and it just tackled subjects that unified the audience. And because this play was so popular, you know that this happened time and time again in that time period and in every single showing since. And I think that that's truly incredible. I mean, at its core, the speech is looking at the qualities of both life and death and which path Hamlet will choose. Death is enticing, death is powerful, death provides a conclusion to a lot of the crazy events that make up a person's lifetime, but then he starts to explore the fact that it's the easy way out, it's a sin, and he just has one last job to take care of, and that's to avenge his father. And so ultimately, he chooses life, but not before exploring the qualities of both and really putting himself into a situation where he's not just going to breeze past death. It's something that he has to embrace to come to this decision. And that speech covers a lot of ground that I think is pretty hard for writers to write convincingly. And this speech is pretty convincing. The entire play, Hamlet is hesitant, but this is such a declarative moment of his intentions going forward that it sets up the path to the bloody conclusion at the end. And again, it's incredibly powerful. And I just need to wait to hear it spoken by somebody with true conviction, because I didn't quite get that before. Anybody looking to go see Hamlet? From the morality of suicide to the ethics of murder, this play covers a lot of ground that is dark and universal and mysterious, and I think that the theme of death is covered better here than in any of Shakespeare's other plays. I got so much more from my second reading, and I'm absolutely looking forward to my third and fourth, using some more comprehensive materials to augment that experience overall. I just used this edition here, but I know that there is a lot more to unpack, and so I think out of a lot of the plays that I have read so far in ShakeTube, this will definitely be a revisit in the future. Or is it a revisit? I don't know if this was the best overall play that I've read in ShakeTube so far. There are a lot that have been great. I know that this commonly gets chosen as the best Shakespeare play of all time. We all have different preferences, but I would be a fool to say that this did not make it into the top tier. So we've hit another big gun here. I know we're looking at Othello next week. I'm excited about that. That will be another reread, but thanks for watching again. We are in double digits, and we will be moving into the last third of ShakeTube next week. Hope you'll join me again. Thanks for watching. See you next Friday.